Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Thursday, July 20th edition of the Super Bowl Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Will, joined by...
I'm Tyler Shibish. Yeah, nice to meet you. I don't know. You normally say my name, so that threw me for a little bit.
Yeah, I had to throw you for a loop.
Keep me guessing, I guess.
Tyler's also telling me that it's not on Facebook yet, so, classic us starting late and not being on the same page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. For some reason, see, I don't know why it's locked whenever I do it. Like it goes
before.
Yeah. No, last time we did like a whole 45 minutes of show, and then it was just like, oh hey, all right, so let's do friends on Facebook. Actually, let's make it public. Let's get some weirdos in here.
Heck yeah. No one's a weirdo. If they're watching our show, they're really nice people.
Okay, so anyways, take number 2. Welcome in tonight. We got a special guest on here. We're gonna have Joe Gaither from Bama Central on. Joe's a guy that kind of helped me out big time when I was doing my Title 100.9 stuff. So we're gonna have him on. He was fortunate enough to get to go to SEC Media Days. I thought I was gonna get to go, and I thought I could just be the guest to talk about it. But Joe will probably do a better job explaining it than I will anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and send him the link. A lot of interesting conversation. Obviously, we're going to talk about specifically Alabama at the SEC Media Days, but there were some interesting quotes today, even from Lane Kiffin. I don't know if you saw what Lane Kiffin was saying about Feinbaum. They had a little back and forth going, so we're going to try and talk about that as well. Maybe we can get Joe Gaither's thoughts on that. So I'm going to go ahead and send him the link.
I did see that he said something like talking about the transfer portal basically being free agency in college football, which is like you had to have known was what was going to happen. I know that the intent is true, but like the way that it is right now, especially with all the money going around, like you had to have known that it was always going to become that. And that's inherently the problem with like more NIL deals and stuff like that, is that the rich schools do get to straight up just bid on free agents basically. And
I think, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just think it's kind of unavoidable the way it is right now. And I'm more for it than I'm against it still, because I'm all about like these athletes should get paid for what they do. But it does kind of suck that it's basically just like bidding on top transfers now.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too that kind of with the Kiffin thing is that he never misses an opportunity to defend Nick Saban. Not that Nick Saban needs to be defended, but anytime anybody says anything bad about Alabama or kind of questions Nick Saban's greatness, Kiffin's always quick to come out and be like, hey, y'all are poking the bear, which is probably not the smartest thing to do. So that's interesting because his tenure at Alabama was kind of up and down, and he was kind of Saban's, I don't know how to say it, a guy that Saban didn't shy away from yelling at.
Punching bag.
Yeah, Saban's punching bag for good reason in a lot of cases.
It reminds me of my high school physics teacher, where he could see more inside of Lane Kiffin. He was trying to bring out every ounce of potential he had. It was a labor of love.
I think Kiffin's become a better coach because of it. Obviously, anybody who's around Nick Saban for even just a year. I mean, coaches come here for a year to get their footing after having, some issues at other schools, and maybe only being at other schools for a couple of years and not having much success. They come here and parlay that into an assistant coaching job, or even a guy like Butch Jones, who was at Tennessee for a long time. Last couple of years there didn't go the way he wanted to, came and was an analyst at Alabama, and then basically is a head coach now. Or we got our guest. Let me bring him in here. There he is. I'm drinking. I got some coffee going here. I got to keep up with you. We got Joe Gaither from Bama Central. Joe Gaither, how you doing today, man?
Oh, good evening, Joe. Great to see you, man. Thanks for inviting me. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, no problem. Joe's our first guest on here. We're trying to have a lot of guests on here, so you gotta set the bar high. Do you
Ooh.
you get a good nap in after SEC media days? You well rested?
Oh my gosh, Joe. Actually, I have been sleeping 80% of this day. We got back about 7:30, 8 o'clock last night, and I felt like I was doing good. And I guess I woke up today and didn't realize just how much I was riding on adrenaline. It was exciting. It was a blast yesterday just to be around everything. And so today I was like, come on, wake up, coffee. Come on, wake up, something. And it just took me. Yeah, today was definitely a day of rest, just relaxing and kind of basking in. We're what, 40 something days away now. It's all downhill. It was a lot of fun yesterday.
Absolutely. So what basically I just kind of want to get a feel. What was the environment like at SEC Media Days this year? I'm not sure if you've been to Media Days in the past, but I just kind of want to get a feel for the atmosphere. It looked like there was a lot of excitement, especially for, Alabama fans coming off a year where we're so used to being in the playoffs, being in the national championship. And it just feels like this offseason has been 10 times longer than it usually is.
It was cool yesterday. I mean, we got in there we got in there early, so there were a few fans waiting on Coach Saban and everybody to arrive. And so, but by the time we were upstairs, it was a blast. They basically had a big old conference room for the main media room, and then a couple breakout rooms, and along the hallway, just the who's who of media running tables and running guests, running questions. Ran into a couple people that we've seen in our old Tide days, and it was just kind of set up a spot. I just had got to set up a spot next to a backdrop and wait on some of the Bama guys to come through. It was just kind of chaos, really, but controlled chaos, and it was just a lot of fun to see everybody just kind of with smiles on their faces. You saw Dallas Kool-Aid and JC were all just really happy to be there. I was surprised that Kool-Aid was so comfortable. It was a little short of answers, but he was comfortable and smiling, looked good. Everybody just seemed like they were having a good time. And it's been a weird offseason. It's been probably the weirdest Nick Saban offseason since 07, 06 when he first arrived, changing the two coordinators, losing Bryson and Will, and kind of turning over everything. I think this team's gonna surprise a lot of people, really.
Yeah, obviously you were there like for the Bama people specifically, but what was your favorite non-Alabama related interview that you did? Or like not interview necessarily, but favorite. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Okay, so today, Coach Kiffin, I felt like gave you the most. I wasn't up there to see any of today's action, but look, Coach Saban's not up there to make any headlines. He just wants to keep everything as quiet as possible and not stir anything up. Really, he kind of told you yesterday with his cake analogy. Don't ask me about the gold quarterbacks all season long. His whole answer is probably going to be related to cake. The cake's still baking. Can't pull it out yet. We don't know. But yeah, my favorite was probably Coach Kiffin because he's the most honest out of any of them. I think he plays the media game the least. I think he's going to tell you that NIL is harmful to schools like Ole Miss, who aren't rolling in the money like A&M, Alabama, and Tennessee are. And then he's also going to be strict. I love how honest he was about Paul Feinbaum's stupid comments on Monday about, if he doesn't make the playoffs, Nick Saban doesn't make the playoffs, it's going to harm his legacy. Dumb, really. And Coach Kiffin really, he didn't pull any punches. I enjoy his honesty and his authenticity with the media.
I saw that Michael Bronner kind of strung that beef around.
Yeah.
One of our former Title 100.9 people making us proud. But kind of going back to, I know you were fortunate enough to talk to all three players. One player in particular that kind of seems to have a chip on his shoulder this offseason, kind of not too happy about the way things gone last season, was offensive tackle JC Latham. I know he said that appreciate the Bama slander at all, understanding the scoop. I know we're going to win it all, national championship, undefeated, Joe Moore Award. I want that also. Basically, he just kind of seems pretty pissed off about last year. So I know you got to talk to him. Kind of just give me your thoughts and what you were able to gather from your conversation with JC Latham.
Joe, wouldn't you say that's a little unusual for Alabama, the Alabama player going into the season? I felt like his kind of discussion was a little unusual, and same with Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner claiming I'm the best SEC defender in the SEC, which, I mean, I love the confidence. I love the here's where our goals are. We're not mincing any words. We're going to, be focused on trying to accomplish big tasks. But usually that's not the way Kool-Aid.
Joyless murder ball.
Yeah. Kool-Aid took the approach. He was asked a bunch of times about Quinn Ewers in Texas, losing to Tennessee and LSU. And Kool-Aid's answer was focused on fall camp. And so it was a little interesting to hear the three guys taking three different aspects, but Dallas and JC really kind of setting the bar as high as they can. I think for them, that's really important because the offensive and defensive line have been less than stellar over the last 2 years, less than physical, less than imposing their will. I think that it's important to have that leadership along the fronts. And so for JC to be in the program for 3 years, and he's going to be with his old high school teammate Tyler Booker, I think for them to set the tone, we're the veterans, we're the leaders. It's healthy. It's good. Not to shy away from the national championship mentality, but I was a little bit just kind of surprised that, okay, you're going there. Y'all are putting it out there, even though it's been since 2020 winning the national championship.
Yeah, and I know you got to have a little bit of fun with all three of them. I saw on. I was kind of wondering, like, which
they all
one...
cracked smiles. They all
exactly.
That's my only goal. I didn't want to ask, do you like Alabama? What are your goals for the year?
Yeah, you gotta bring some fun to it. You can't just be a stick in the mud.
I asked Kool-Aid about getting yelled at by Coach Saban in his first year and kind of how that relationship changed. that made him smile a little bit. Tyler Booker was really what cracked open J.C. Latham, and then Dallas Turner. I was asking him about being the trench or about going up against J.C. Latham, the trench king, and he was like, "Okay, I guess I can give him his props, give him his due."
Yeah, so you kind of said they all had like different approaches to the interview. I kind of wonder which one was your favorite. Like, I know it's kind of hard to pick, but
Dallas was the most relaxed. Yeah, Dallas was the most relaxed, man, and JC was Dallas and JC were very comfortable being there. I think that and Kool-Aid was comfortable much more in the breakout session when I got to talk to him a little later. It was kind of a scrum style. It was like 10, 15 of us trying to pepper him with questions, and he was more comfortable in that setting. But Dallas and JC just treated it like there wasn't even a camera in front of us, and we were just talking football. And I just like we knew each other like friends, which is like not always the case. And so I really appreciated that, the way that they were open and just having as much fun as they could on the day. I mean, it gets exhausting getting asked a bunch of questions. I got a little fortunate because I was one of the first ones with JC, but I was one of the last ones with Dallas. So I was impressed with, he still had that energy, still had that, happy attitude and really seemed to enjoy himself being there.
So did Kool-Aid let you touch his chain? The Kool-Aid man chain?
Oh, I didn't ask. No.
Did you breathe on it?
I was in the vicinity. I think I got some of my germs on it, but it was beautiful. He said his boy Leo it took him 3 weeks to design, and actually I'm gonna try to look up this jeweler and see if we can talk to him a little bit in the future. But it was a pretty heavy piece. It looked like, and then he had a nice watch that was iced out as well, matching right along with it.
So obviously going back to the quarterback conversation, obviously Nick Saban didn't really give us much, just kind of said all three players are working hard, getting better. And I know personally myself, I think Jalen Milroe will be the quarterback. I know you've been vocal on Twitter about you're not a big fan of people that kind of teeter back and forth and say that, hey, Coach Saban will make the right decision. So what do you think about this quarterback battle? Do you think it's changed with Buckner transferring in? You think it's still Milroe's job to lose, or what are your thoughts?
Well, don't you think that's the most boring answer? Whoever Coach Saban picks, that's going to be the best one.
The Ryan Fowler answer.
I mean, come on now. Like, let's be real. Yes, they're all three talented quarterbacks. They're all five talented quarterbacks. But I think that all of them are going to give you little bit more. Really, I felt like I got a pretty decent picture of what happened in the spring. With I think Ty Simpson, they wanted to give him that push. They wanted to make push him forward and see if he was going to earn the starting job. But turning over the football is like a recipe for Nick Saban's doghouse, and Ty Simpson just a little bit careless with the football. So Jalen, look. I like Jalen just because the circumstances around the Texas A&M game really, I think Bill O'Brien put him in a terrible position to succeed. And a lot of Alabama fans and pundits and analysts are really, you can only go off film as you saw last year. I think when Tommy Rees will work the offense a bit more, simplify it a little bit more, and tailor it to Jalen Milroe's skill sets, and he can be a deadly weapon. He can be really a defensive coordinator's nightmare. But you don't bring in a transfer from California all the way across the country if you're not going to give him a shot to start. So Tyler Buchner, look, if you get into that MTSU game and you're still having questions, I think Tyler Buchner is going to probably get your nod against Texas, because you just need to be ready and you need to be scoring points against Texas and not turning the football over. I'm pulling for Jalen Milroe. I think he probably gives you the most explosive options this year because, look, you cannot play man defense without accounting for his run. You cannot really rush the passer without accounting for his legs. So I think Jalen presents the toughest task for defensive coordinators. I'm hoping that he's going to win the job, but I'm not going to be surprised if Tyler Buchner sneaks right on in there.
Interesting. And then earlier you were talking about J.C. Latham, talking about his expectation for the season, going undefeated, winning the best offensive line in the country. So I kind of was curious about what your personal, I guess, expectations are for the season. And I know it's an easy Alabama fan answer to go, oh, we're going to win the Natty, we're going to not lose. But what's your realistic expectations?
Well, I'm filling out the SEC media, the bracket or the polls or whatever, the picks for their preseason stuff, and I'm like, okay, who am I picking? What am I doing here? I honestly didn't have enough courage not to pick Alabama. I thought obviously Georgia coming in. I'm not as high on Mike Bobo replacing Todd Monken. But I do think that Georgia is going to be very good. They're going to be very physical. Their schedule is their schedule's terrible. I just have a sneaky feeling that you're going to see something about that 2012, 2015, 2014 Alabama style, where the offensive line is really the engine behind the offense, and the quarterback is just kind of fitting in, managing the game. You look at the 5 running backs that Alabama's gotten, really all of them can play all of them can play at a high level. It might be stupid, but I just think, Coach Saban, after every 3 years, winning a national championship, the hunger right there. Yeah, I think that it's going to be a real good year for Alabama. I think that they're going to get to the playoffs, and once you get to the playoffs, it's basically rolling the dice at that point. I think Alabama is going to have a strong season, and I'm expecting Alabama fans to be pretty happy at the end of the year.
So basically with the running backs, obviously, we've got Jason McClellan, we got Rodell Williams. Do you think those 2 talented freshman guys, how much do you think they're going to be on the field? Obviously, Justice Haynes and Richard Young are both incredible players. Do you think they're going to push for, playing time early this season? Do you think it'll be like a later on in the season type of thing like we've seen in the past with true freshmen at Alabama?
Well, Jace, I think, going to get every opportunity to carry us through those first couple of weeks. But Justice Haynes, every time Nick Saban has talked about Justice Haynes, his face just changes. And the words usually are about the same, but his face lights up. I think that Justice Haynes is going to sneak in there and be really, really special. You're going to see all 5 guys throughout the season: Jason McClellan, Roydell, Jam Miller, and then the 2 freshmen. Richard Young, you get the back end of the stick, you get the short end of the stick because of the summer enrollees. All of us as freshmen enrolled in the summer, but now that's kind of like the non-normal thing. So he's a little bit behind. I think you're going to see all 5 guys. I think Coach Saban's going to really just try to ride whatever the hot hand is. You remember 2009 when Mark Ingram kind of set the table and Trent Richardson kind of cleared everything after that, wearing out the defense and letting Trent Richardson, he popped that 60, 70-yard run in the national championship game against Texas. So I think it's kind of look look like that. Use the veterans to soften up the defense, and then you're going to kind of use the skill sets of the younger guys to kind of break the game wide open.
Yeah, kind of going on from that too. I know one of the big question marks over the last couple of years, outside of just the quarterback position, was the wide receiver room. But do you think, with the returning talent they have, Jermaine Burton coming back, and then getting someone like Malik Benson, who I think was the highest rated JUCO transfer of all time, at least highest rated JUCO wide receiver, I know for sure. How do you think? Do you think there's going to be a little more stability back to the Bama of old, or do you think it's still kind of a question mark?
I think Malik Benson is going to give you the Jameson Williams effect. Probably not the same amount of yards, but the big playability. I feel like you're going to see a lot more play. You're going to see the play action passing game, but Malik Benson will be the deadly weapon on the other end. I'm really, really excited. He set the record for yards per reception in JUCO. It's 19.7 was what it was. So look, Jermaine Burton. I hope he had a good summer. He's going to be fighting for his spots. I think it's going to be Brooks. It's going to be Brooks, Bond, and Vincent probably being ahead of him. Burton,
the killer bees. The killer bees.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that picks up. Burton, I hope you just get your head on straight. I think that Kool-Aid, that is something that he said. He was complimentary of the wide receivers, saying that all of them have different skill sets and test him in different ways. And so I asked him about Malik Benson, and he said the spring, he enrolled early and helped him get ready for Kansas State in bowl practice. I think that he's going to really kind of take over. I was actually upset at the SEC when filling out my preseason, first and second team. I could not search and type in Malik Benson. I couldn't. Who wasn't on the ballot, and I was like searching. I couldn't do it. And I was like, I'll step out on that limb. I think he's going to be really, really dang good. And I think Ja'Cory Brooks on the other side will give you that kind of solid all-around wide receiver that, all right, maybe he's not going to take the top off, but he's going to run routes well, contested catches well, and he's always going to be in the right place. So I'm so excited about these wide receivers.
I've been adamant so far this offseason that this could be one of the deepest Alabama teams you've seen in a long time, not just on the offensive side of the ball. I know, obviously, it's crazy. You lose players like Bryce Young, Will Anderson. You can't replace guys like that. But defensively, I think this secondary is going to be phenomenal. We got Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think a couple of these guys like Earl Little Jr. are going to step up. Obviously, Caleb Downs will be on the field right away, be a big-time player. And then going back to that kind of like offensive lines deep, running back we just talked about was deep. I think the biggest questions are quarterback and wide receiver, which are massive questions. But do you think this Bama team is one of the deepest we've seen, or how do you think this team could stack up? I know a lot of people are not really talking about the defensive side of the ball. And you've got three of the highest rated recruiting classes of all time currently on this roster.
Yeah, that's why I think the quarterback conversation is a little bit overblown or overstated, because I think the rest of the team is really, really strong around them. And if you get quarterback play where Tyler Buckner's not turning the football over, or Ty Simpson's not turning the football over, just delivering passes, accepting the wide open man, and letting the offensive line, dictate the running game and dictate to the defense, I think you will slow down the games. The defense will be at an advantage by not being on the field as much, because the points are not going to be, go. I think that everything is going to be working much better this year. Yeah, your depth, I think you're exactly right, Joe. I think that's going to be the strength of this team, because you've got 5 starters on the offensive line with some, you're probably walking into fall camp with 8 guys along the line that can play offensively, and you're probably at least 2 deep along the defensive front. So if you get adequate play out of Deontay Lawson and Tresman Marshall on the inside, then I think that your defense is going to be very, very strong.
Well, so we kind of went through like a lot of names, a lot of different position groups, but I wanted to ask you personally, who are 1 or 2 guys that you think aren't being talked about enough, that you think might have a huge impact this season that you don't really hear about?
Aside from Malik Benson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my number 1. Number 2, the guys that aren't being talked about enough. Well, I mean, I I think Terrion Arnold is a good corner. I think Terrion Arnold can play. Now, he got picked on a lot last year because you're playing opposite Kool-Aid and opposite Kyrie Jackson at the very beginning of the year, getting burned by Texas. You're getting picked on a lot. But I think Terrion Arnold, going into his second year starting, will really – look, I think it's going to be terrible, really challenging to pass against this Alabama secondary. And then, going hand in hand, Jaheim Otis, going into his sophomore season, he flashed a bunch of times last year, still losing weight, still trimming up his body. I think Jaheim Otis is probably going to be a really underrated player. And if you can get that defensive presence up front, like what? When's the last interior disruptor that you really had? Was it Quinnen Williams? You've gone, 5-6 years now without a real interior disruptor? Sure, a little bit of Christian Barmore and Badarian Mathis here and there, but not consistent. So I think Jaheim Otis, if you can get a guy up there that really becomes difficult for offensive lines to block and disrupts everything, he paired up with Terrion Arnold, I think the defense is going to be a lot of fun.
Last question. I know we've had you on for a while, so I know you're a busy man. Don't want to keep you for too long, but so obviously Alabama last year wasn't fortunate enough in the sense that a lot of their tougher games came on the road. You had to go to LSU early in the season, had to go to Texas. A lot of tough games, a lot of tough road games. The last 2 years has kind of been the situation. This year we're fortunate enough. A lot of those tougher games like Tennessee, LSU, we play at home. Who do you see tripping up Alabama this year? Just kind of off the top of your head, I know LSU could be one of those teams. A&M could be one as well.
Yeah, I think Texas coming in week 2 is the where it falls on the schedule. If you still have quarterback questions like, okay, Coach Saban talked yesterday, none of them have separated themselves. If they're still, no one separated themselves after the MTSU game, Texas and Quinn Ewers, they'll jump up on you. That was a little bit of the conversation yesterday. People tried to bait Kool-Aid into kind of, hey, y'all almost got before Quinn Ewers got hurt. I think that can present some issues. But down the line, I'm not asking. Look, Brian Kelly, I think, is a fabulous coach. But coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium in November, by the time November comes around, I think the team will be in a pretty good spot. So that's going to be really challenging for LSU. I think that not scoring early in that game last year doomed Alabama. Tennessee, you got the revenge factor. Look, I've seen ticket prices for that as like $200-$300. I think it's going to be a dangerous atmosphere for Tennessee. A&M's probably your best candidate for your road. I think you're probably right, Joe. I think Texas coming in week 2 and A&M, what's that, October 7th or so, 8th, that first or second weekend in October. Those are probably 2 good picks for Alabama's toughest tasks.
Tyler, you got any more questions?
No, I mean, I feel like my Alabama football knowledge is dwarfed in comparison because I'm hearing all these dates and stats and stuff, and I'm like, I'm the date and stat guy, but over here, I'm humbled.
No.
Backseat. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to go ahead and tell the people where they could find you, I know you got your own show now. You're big time for Bama Central.
Yeah, we're online Monday through Friday at 1 in the afternoon, but then you can always watch it on Bama Central's YouTube channel. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, Joe Gaither 6. Send me all your comments. Tell me how stupid I am, and we have a lot of fun. That's just cutting it up. We're not doing anything serious, but we love covering Alabama at BamaCentral.com.
Joe, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night.
No problem, guys. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too.
Lot to get into. Lots of conversations were had. Make sure.
I thought it was interesting that
highlighted.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I was trying to figure out how to turn him off. We're not too familiar with the technology yet.
No, I was gonna say it was really interesting point that he brought up Jalen Milroe and Tyler Buckner as potential quarterbacks for next season, but didn't really mention Ty Simpson, which pretty interesting to me.
I kind of gave him that question on a silver platter because I know he's a guy that believes in Milroe, and obviously me myself, I believe in him as well. But I thought it was interesting too that he brought up JC Latham and how he seems like, I mean, I brought it up. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and compared to a couple of these other players, and I think that's going to be a common theme with this year's team. They realize the media has written them off. They realize that a lot of people, I mean, Paul Feinbaum ran his mouth about how, if Alabama doesn't make the playoffs this year, it could tarnish Saban's dynasty. So these guys, I mean, they hear this stuff. It's Alabama, so you're used to them being professional and not being as reactive as some of these other teams. But I personally, I like that they've got a fire lit inside of them. I like that they're hungry this year. I love J.C. Latham's comments because you know what? J.C. Latham's going to be a top 5 draft pick, So I love his confidence. I love that he's coming out and saying that this offensive line is going to win the Joe Moore Award, which is kind of crazy because, I mean, Michigan's won that award the last 2 years. Alabama's offensive line last year, towards the end of the season, I thought was night and day better than the beginning of the year. Obviously, we had a lot of problems, a lot of false starts. But there were a lot of younger guys mixed in with some guys that had been at Alabama for a while but hadn't been on the field much. So I think this offensive line this year is going to be one of our strong suits, and I like that they've got a chip on their shoulder. I think that's going to contribute to the overall attitude of just being a physical, punch you in the mouth type of team this year, and that does start with the offensive line and the defensive line. Both sides of the ball have to establish an identity.
Yeah. So, also, quick shout out. I didn't mention earlier. Damian Harris, Patriots. That's the jersey of the day. Just wanted to throw that out there because it's kind of confusing when I wear jerseys and don't explain why I'm wearing different jerseys.
Yeah, that for those that aren't Patriots fans and aren't too familiar with the throwbacks, it's not like the usual, you'd see the logo and you'd recognize it. I've got a Carolina Panthers hat on. Gotta rep my Bryce Young. I can't necessarily afford a Bryce Young jersey, so it's the best I can do right now. But
real quick too, I did want to say, looking over your shoulder, I gotta give you some congratulations. Washington Commanders, the sale was approved to Josh Harris and his group today, and so they're finally free of the bad. After 23 years, Dan Snyder's gone.
Yeah,
so
and
congratulations.
Obviously, thank you. Obviously, this is it's a college football show, but I gotta give my 2 cents on this day because it's one of the better days in franchise history, and this is the Redskins. I mean, they former Redskins, obviously the Commanders now, used to be one of the marquee teams in the NFL. They won 3 championships, and so once Snyder came, he kind of stripped that from them and they became the laughingstock in the NFL. And I go back and forth with my fandom with them. They frustrate me, but I still watch the games when I'm able to. But yeah, this was an awesome day. I listen to DC Sports Radio every day, and they had the radio station had like several parties going on, and they were hooting and hollering when the official word came in. So it means a lot for me as a fan. I know I can speak for fans scattered across the country and all those people that reside in the DC area. Everybody was so just through the moon happy about it. And it's less about how the team does this year. I don't think anybody's expecting anything crazy, but it's nice to just have that monkey off your back. A lot of people weren't going to games, weren't buying jerseys, buying tickets specifically because they didn't want to put a dime in Snyder's pocket because he's such a horrible human being. So awesome day. Definitely happy that happened, and hopefully they can get the ball rolling going forward and just be a better team on the field. But thank you those who tuned in. We had a little bit shorter show tonight. Obviously last week we went pretty long, so when I go back and edit this, it'll be a lot easier for me to do. And we were fortunate to have Joe Gaither on, somebody who's helped me out a lot in the past with Tide 100.9 and is doing great things with Bama Central. So you guys make sure to check him out. Like you said, he's got the Joe Gaither Show. Monday through Friday, I believe, in the afternoon at 1 o'clock, and you can always catch the rewinds for that. But unless you have anything else to add, Tyler, I think we're good.
Yeah, just thanks for watching.
Thank you, and I'm gonna make this awkward because I have to press this button. Whoop. Hold up.